Hey everybody, back with Day Drinking with David. It's been a little hiatus, took the week off for some relaxation. Today we're really excited to have the founder, distiller of one of our favorite gin distilleries in the world, Four Pillars, Cam McKenzie. He will be coming up with us shortly, I assume here. There he is. And hopefully everything is good out there. Victoria, I know they're on full lockdown. Hey!
Hello, mate. How are you?
So good, man. It's great to see you.
And you. And
Been
you.
too long.
Welcome. Hello from sunny but locked down Healesville, Victoria.
Well, we really appreciate you making the time for us, and it's really good to see a friendly face. And I know you guys are locked down there pretty tight, and we probably should be, but it's a little loosey goosey here on this side.
It's a brave new world, mate. It's a brave new world, but it is what it is.
We've
actually been busier than we've ever been.
That's awesome.
It's just this little area here, which is our distillery door and our sort of bar area, we can't open. Right. But production on the other side of the wall, where we'll go for a walk in a minute, is just flying. We're really busy. So
great.
I don't know. I can't make sense of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen. Yeah, there's a lot of other problems to have. So it's good to have at least one thing going for us. I'm the same way, and we've never been busier, and it's bars are. I mean, it's great that you guys are still cranking, considering bars in this country are pretty well closed up, or at least in California, not everywhere. And luckily, our customers are making up for it at home, and I'm sure similar things are happening in a lot of your markets, and other markets probably have opened up. Just for everybody who doesn't know, can you tell us a little about Four Pillars and how it started, and then we'll have a look at the distillery?
Yeah, sure, mate. So we started making gin 7 years ago. Three of us had a bit of a passion for gin. A couple of us came out of the wine industry, just wanted to do something a little bit different. Gin was always my sort of white spirit of choice, if you like. And I think that kind of makes sense in a way for anyone who likes food or wine, in that particularly with gin, you really do look for aroma, flavour, balance, weight, texture, the same sorts of things we used to look for in wine, we look for in gin. But we tend to go from wine being a finished product to gin being an ingredient. You've got to look at it and taste it on its merits, but it's got to look better in a drink than it does just in a glass on its own. And that was kind of the tricky thing for us in a way. We're based out here in the Yarra Valley, which is about an hour outside Melbourne. For those who haven't been to Australia, in better times, Melbourne would be the sort of food and cafe and restaurant capital of Australia. No disrespect to Sydney, you do a fine job, but Melbourne kills you. So we're about an hour out. This is a really great, very high-end, premium, cool climate growing region. So brilliant Chardonnay, brilliant Pinot Noir, really spicy, sort of medium-bodied Shiraz. In the right years, it's got epic Cabernet, really good fizz out here as well. So it's a well-known region. I live out here. I actually live across the road.
That's great.
75-metre walk to work. And on the right day, depending if I'm zigzagging a little bit, about 150-metre walk home. So,
well, and this side, Yarra, for wine is still a bit of a secret. There's such great production, and everybody thinks of Australia as quite a warm climate, big high alcohol wines, and then to see these more balanced things, more acidity, more food friendly things coming through out of there, just like it's a total light bulb for me in terms of Australian wines when I first tasted those years ago, and I've always loved that region. And what was your light bulb for gin product? Like, when did you guys go, oh, forget wine, let's make gin? Or what was there? Was there a moment, or it just sort of happened on its own? How did?
Yeah, it was a bit of everything. I just was really keen to work for myself. I'd worked for a few guys in wineries I was very fortunate. I worked for some really good people.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I love the wines, I just quite admired the freedom that they had to experiment a bit and do things that they wanted to do. We saw a bit of an opportunity with gin, to be honest, and we thought, well, let's muck around and see if we can do something a bit different. So making gin was one step, was to say, let's really look into this. Probably that light bulb moment occurred in North America. Stu and I, when we were researching this, we didn't go to London to figure out gin. One of the things we said from day one was we don't want to make London dry gin. Much as I love London dry gin, I think Beefeater is a brilliant quintessential London dry gin. I grew up stealing Beefeater from my parents as a teenager because it was the easiest bottle to top up with water and hope they wouldn't notice. So I have a great affinity with London dry gin, but we kind of thought gin is a weird category. It's sat there and done nothing for nearly 40 years. Until Bombay Sapphire probably hit, gin really didn't innovate much. So Stu and I went to the US. We spent a bit of time with the guys at Dry Fly in Spokane, Washington.
Yeah,
just
I know that.
in Distillery, really awesome guys, very generous with their time. We then went over to Portland, spent a bit of time at Aviation, at New Deal, and met some just amazing guys.
Yeah.
And then we drove down to Los Angeles, visiting distilleries nearly every day.
Great. And
the thing we noticed with the gins in North America was they were so much more confident, so much more innovative, and just really brave. They were really interested in changing the style, using local ingredients. So we sort of came home saying, that's kind of the style. We want to make a brave, modern Australian gin using some interesting native ingredients, but not turning our back on the more traditional ones as well.
Well, I think one thing that's always struck us about you as a craft distiller is that you made that decision from the start. We're just doing gin. Even all these guys you've mentioned, gin was often a part of what they're doing. But I think this is one of the problems with craft distillery is that it's really, there's a lot.
You're going to get a bit of that, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. There's a lot of incentive to kind of do everything. Oh, we love rye whiskey. Let's make some rye. We love this. We love that. You guys have been really focused and at the same time done some really innovative stuff. And we'll go through a couple of the products, pushing the category and creating new categories in a sense, which I really respect. So for me, that's something I often recommend to people who are looking into this arena. It's like, man, if you can't do something better, you can't just be different. You need to be different and really good. And you better focus on one thing and give it your darndest. Because in the end, Beefeater's good gin for $15. Like, how are you going to really,
London dry gin.
In Australia,
really
it's $50. But
as you say, we focused on gin. There were so many distilleries we went to where they had a whole range of products, and we would walk out and say, "Well, I love their rye, but I didn't really love their gin, and their absinthe was okay, but there's something or other else was terrible." And we always had something else to say. So we'd like something, but we also dislike something. And we sort of said, well, we drink gin. I'm too old to make the whiskey I want to drink. So I was never going to make whiskey. For us, the opportunity was gin and to innovate within the category. And we kind of felt, at the very least, when someone walks out of here having tasted a few gins, they're going to like a gin. And they're going to remember Four Pillars gin. Do you want to have a look out the back?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Forgive my photography, but we'll go for a wander. It might be a bit noisy, so we'll have a look out here, and then I'll go upstairs where it's a bit quieter, and we can talk about the gins.
All good.
So we're actually distilling today. This is our production floor through here. I'm just going to grab some headphones just so I can hear you a bit better. So this is behind me is Wilma. This was our first ever still. One of the things we found in the US was wherever we went, if they had a still made by Christian Karl out of Germany, we loved those spirits. We instantly had an affinity with those spirits. Carl are the oldest still manufacturer in Germany. Just going to plug this in. Should have done that before. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Yeah, so Carl, see on the door here, this is, to me, the Rolls-Royce logo of stills. You know, that is the best still in the world. These guys, you know, it's about an 18-month waiting list now to get a Carl still. I think they only make about 40 of them a year. They've been making stills for 150 years. And what we loved about them was they've got this really interesting balancing act of purifying and cleaning spirit, but also concentrating flavour. And for us in gin, that's kind of exactly what we want to do. We want the spirit to be super clean. We use a wheat-based spirit. We don't make that here. That's made for us in northern New South Wales on a massive, huge still that gets it extra neutral. I want that spirit to be super clean.
Yeah.
We also use a column, which is a bit unusual on gin. We're not a pot distilled gin. We use aroma plates that help drop the sort of more volatile, dirty oils that we don't want back into the still through reflux, but they allow the more elegant, fragrant characters to rise to the top and come through. So if we have a look here, where am I? There you go. We're distilling at the moment. That's coming through at about 93% alcohol. So we distill very high for gin. It's commercially a really stupid way to make gin because it restricts your yields. You use a lot more botanicals and it takes twice as long to distill. But I guarantee you, you know, if you were here, we'd let you taste that at 93%. And it's not rocket fuel. It's actually delicious, sweet, clean. It's got all the oils bound up in it. And it's just a really beautiful still. We're doing rare dry gin today, which is kind of probably 80% of our time. This still here is Wilma. This is the first Carl still ever in Australia. She's 450 litres capacity. Over here, this is Jude. Jude is 600 litres. So about a foot taller, but essentially exactly the same still. And then over here, this is the biggest Carl still in Australia. This is Beth, Big Betty. She's a 2,000 litre Carl still. Oh. All of these stills are named after our mums. Very important people in our lives. Wilma, my late mother, you know, certainly she was one of a kind, but she had 5 sons and she could explode at the drop of a hat. So it was the perfect name for a still. She could also put away a martini or two, let me tell you.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought I'd also show you this, though. We've got some botanicals weighed out here. So what we have a tendency to do is weigh out our botanicals. And you can kind of see here, hopefully you can see that. But everything's kind of in the hundreds of grams. There's a bit of coriander seed. We don't use a lot of coriander seed.
The internet gods are not shining on us. Might have to reconnect. I know it's March. There we're back. We're back.
Sorry, mate.
It's all good.
Well, welcome to regional Victoria.
Yeah.
I've flipped the camera around so you can kind of see here coriander seed. We don't use a lot of it. You know, it's a great form of citrus, but we use other things that give us that lovely character. This gives us a lovely earthy citrus character. We use a bit of green cardamom from Guatemala. Really potent, but it's kind of power without muscle. It's really strong. Anyone who's bitten on one of these in a curry would know how strong it is. But it's also really fragrant, really elegant. There's a bit of angelica root in here as well. We use some lavender to help lift things out of the glass. There's some star anise in here as well from Vietnam, which almost has a smoky kind of character to it. This green leafy one here is Tasmanian pepperberry leaf, which grows in the highlands. Yeah, this grows in the highlands of Tassie, about as far south as you can really grow anything. Really sort of dried herbs, pesto, green tea. And next to it is lemon myrtle, which we bang on about all the time in Australian gin. This is the highest natural form of citral in the world. It's 6 times higher in that lovely lemony character than a lemon. So hugely fragrant. And obviously, there's no juniper on the top of this here, but I don't have to dig too far in to get juniper. So for us, juniper is in the kilos. It's kind of from here all the way down is juniper. We're a massive base of juniper, but everything else is so strong and has such a high impact that we don't need a huge amount of it in these gins.
And so that's going to get dumped into how many liters of spirit?
This will go into Jude, which is 600 litres, and we start at about 35% ABV in the still.
Okay.
So that's all
getting
pre-weighed.
a high-proof spirit and then adding water. And how long does it steep in there before distillation starts? Or you just start it off right away?
We do 2 ways. Some we'll steep overnight, and others we won't steep. We'll put it in, let it go. Because we use that column, we're quite a... Turn back here. Because we use the column, we're quite a long distillation and slow distillation. So it's kind of convenient for us to steep overnight because, you know, Jez over there, wave Jez. Where is he? There he is. Jez can come in, at 5 in the morning and turn the stills on. He's ready to go. When we do a second distillation during the day, honestly, we don't see any difference between steeping and no steeping because there's such a long distillation. Heat, alcohol, time. We extract everything we can on those. So those are weighed out. The other thing that we have on these stills is this botanical basket here. So we also, with rare dry gin, use a whole mountain of fresh oranges. We don't use dried peel. You know, our climate is a little bit Californian in a way. So we get fresh organic citrus 12 months of the year. Wow. We don't have to rely on peel. There you go. These are unwaxed organic oranges. And we go through mountains and mountains and mountains of them every week. So if I was in Europe or the UK, chances are I would need to make a gin using dried peel if I wanted to make that gin 365 days a year. Or I could make a seasonal gin maybe with fresh peel. We get beautiful fresh oranges 12 months of the year. So we literally cut them in half and stack them up in a basket like little cups, and we vapor infuse them. So that's vapor infusing. All the other botanicals sit in the pot and are macerated and steeped.
Yeah, that rare dry, it's got a lot going on, I'll tell you what. And it's one of these just so versatile. It can really do a lot. And I see behind the stills you got a couple barrels there, I believe, huh?
Yeah, I'll flip around so you can see them. So, yeah, we do some barrel aging. You know, it's not a big part of our business. I think coming out of the wine industry, it's quite comforting to have barrels in your life. So we kind of love them. These are all sherry casks, this Solera here. They're about 35-year-old ex-McWilliams sweet sherry casks. The really interesting ones are up here.
Look at that.
So that's a Remy Martin cognac barrel that's over 100 years old. There's old Spanish sherry barrels. These would have come to Australia full of cognac or full of sherry, 100 plus years ago. And when they were emptied, they sent them up to Rutherglen, which is about sort of 3 hours from here, to be used on fortified wines, muskets, tokais, ports. So they are now part of our Christmas gin Solera. So we release a small batch Christmas gin every year where we distill Christmas puddings with a base gin recipe, age it in old musket barrels and just tweak it with a little bit of musket to give it some sweetness. And it's a pretty cool gin, but yeah, I love barrel aging. Have you guys got any of our barrel aged stuff?
No, I don't think it's in the U.S. any longer. We had a bit of the Chardonnay. And I think we're focusing on the white spirits. Hopefully it'll come back around eventually. I'd love to try that Christmas stuff. And the other one that I've heard about and I haven't tried yet is that Negroni.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty wild.
I'm going to head upstairs now so we can talk peacefully, and I can show you through some gin, or at least talk about them. Just ducking up. This is a really cool old building here. It's all these beautiful laminated timber beams. I'm going to flip around so you can see the guys down there bottling. Everyone say hello. Well, they can't hear me. So they're going hard today on bottling. We do everything on site here. Everything's made here. Everything's bottled here. And then up here where it's just a little bit quieter is our little sort of mezzanine little bar area. But we've also got something else up here, which I don't think you've seen. Sorry, the sun's going to glare through here. So this is coral just here. Let me turn around. Sorry, man, technology is not my friend. This is coral.
Yeah,
so
baby.
Yeah, this is a 70-litre Carl still, little pilot still that Carl made for us.
Cool.
This is my man cave, a large alcohol machine. And this is where we do a lot of our experiments and tests. We can do about 30 or 40 bottles of gin on this still, as good as those big stills. It's not a small little lab still. You know, we used to have a little Breaking Bad glass still. So now we've got coral, and this is a really awesome little still, proper botanical basket, all copper, little column. So we're better to sit down and talk about some gin.
Absolutely. Well, we've already discussed pretty thoroughly the rare dry. I think, you know, what I've always appreciated about what you guys are doing is taking, you know, classic botanicals and blending them beautifully with some local flavors. Where you said rare dry is about 80% of the business, huh? That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Is there like is this like part of the ethos, like to use local botanicals, or did you have just happen to come across these things that you like the flavors?
Yeah, it's a bit of everything. I think, you know, we have a bit of a saying, nowhere tastes like Australia. I think we've got some of the most unique botanicals in the world, but Australia is very much part of Asia. You know, we sit down here in a strange part of the world, but I think especially over the last few years, everyone's recognised Australia is very much a part of Asia. So we have access to incredible spices out of Southeast Asia and beyond. And for us, it was about modern Australia, trying to create rare dry gin. It wasn't necessarily about Australiana. You know, we weren't trying to shove Crocodile Dundee into a bottle. That has its place. We just felt a great modern Australian menu was a really interesting reflection of a multicultural Australia. So that was sort of where we went. You know, things like lemon myrtle it's probably the botanical that will end up putting Australian gin on the map. Hopefully that's 4 pillars, but it's more likely someone like Tanqueray will use it in a gin and sort of highlight that not everything in Australia is going to sting you, bite you, or eat you. You know, there's some cool stuff down here to cook with. There's cinnamon myrtle, anise myrtle, strawberry, macadamia nuts, wattle seed. There's a whole lot of things. Like with Fault Line, with that one that we made with you guys.
Yeah.
Not designed to be Australiana, but we used just so many interesting botanicals in that. Strawberry gum is one of the gum trees here, a eucalyptus tree that it's pretty weird. You know, whenever we've tried to distill eucalyptus, it kind of smells a bit like someone's torn a hamstring. It's got liniment character. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's really odd. But strawberry gum has this incredible strawberry, passion fruit, tropical character to it, and just really, really perfect in a gin. You know, wattle seed is amazing. It's quite starchy and textural. Pepperberry, we didn't use the leaf, we used the berry in that. You know, really interesting.
Well, and for those that don't know, the Fault Line gin, my former colleague David Driscoll, just a good friend, went down and basically, I mean, he's very nonchalant about it. I mean, it does name him as a distiller there, but you know, he developed this gin with you, and I have to say, it's been one of the most popular spirits products we've ever had, because it does so much that no other gins do, and there are so many unusual flavors, but you can still make a gin and tonic and be like, oh, this is a gin and tonic that rocks, you know. You don't have to muddle berries in there to get get some goofy flavors going. Like, it's got a lot packed in there, and you know, we're just so proud of that product and grateful for you taking the time to do that for us.
And you know, we wish Dave really well. I texted him and emailed him the other week. He was sending me some photos of his time out here, and honestly, he's got a great palate. All you guys have got great palates, and I think you understand that more modern gins are quite concentrated gins. But one of the tough things you find with gin is texture, because you're constantly cleaning the spirit. And he was the one who pointed to this roasted wattle seed that we hadn't really used in a gin before. And he said it's got a starchy texture to it, which is unusual in white spirits. And he really pushed hard to put that in. And it's given that gin this beautiful length and depth. So, yeah, he was a big part of it, that's for sure. It was good fun. We've got to get you down there.
When you say he noticed the starchy character, did you have distillate of the wattle seed that you guys were tasting, or was he tasting just the fresh or the product itself? How was that process done? I didn't get the details on that from him.
For him, it was just tasting the wattle seed. We had already distilled it. I don't think we ever showed him the distillate, and it is quite bready. You know, it's got that starchy, bready, bakery kind of character to it. It's a fat botanical. You know, the wattle is our native flower. They're in bloom at the moment. Everyone's got hay fever. But if they have a tiny little seed pod, and when you grind these up or you roast them and then grind them up, it's like a bakery shop. Really intense, really fragrant, but not the sort of natural thing. I think with gin, we constantly thinking more citrus or more floral, you know. So, yeah, it was a really great project, and I'm glad we've kept going with it.
Very cool. Yeah, we will. And hopefully, as soon as they let us, we'll be down there, and I'll get to brew up a batch myself with y'all down there. Speaking of which, you've got a new thing brewing. I haven't tasted it yet. I've been waiting to open this, the olive gin. Right now it says olive branch, but I believe you guys are going to be able to call that olive gin, right?
Oh, yeah. In Australia, it's olive leaf. We had a trademark issue with branch, so we changed it to olive leaf, but we'd already put yours on the water. May well stay olive branch, but it's the same gin.
Perfect. Well, I'm very excited for this. Tell us about where this, I mean, obviously you guys, you know, olives and gin go together perfectly. It's incredible. No one's, I mean, not that I know of, it's really, I mean, I'm sure there are other people using olives, but no one's really gone all the way.
We've gone on this.
There's a Spanish gin with olive in it for sure.
I think might do a bit, but look, you know, this for us started in Spain. We did a collaboration which we do every couple of years. We do, you know, collaborations with an international distillery, and you know, last year we did a collaboration with Kyoto Distillery to make the Kinobi gins.
Oh, cool! Yeah, we love them.
We did one with Herno in the north of Sweden. Amazing gins. But the very first one we did was with a little distillery called Santa Maria in Madrid. Balding guys who set up a gin distillery with a Carl Still, and that kind of resonated with us. Okay. And we were looking for a tax-deductible way to take families on a holiday to Spain. This seemed like a good idea. And it was an amazing eye-opener, because that's the first time we looked at really savoury botanicals. You know, rare dry gin is quite orange, lemon myrtle lift. We'll talk about Navy strength later, but it's quite limey and gingery, and it's got those sort of brighter characters. We can make spicy gins like, you know, Spice Negroni, powerful gins. Floral gins, I've never really gone down that road. I've never managed to make one that doesn't smell a bit soapy. Not to say we won't, I just haven't got it right yet. But that was the first time we looked at things like rosemary, or bay leaf. I think you guys would call it laurel. We used a little bit of olive, and we started to sort of see that those gins were really quite different, being quite savoury. And then about 18 months ago, as we continued to play with this gin, I was fortunate to go to the olive harvest at Cobram Estate, which is right up on the Riverland, maybe 6-7 hours north of here. They're Australia's biggest olive grove. They have thousands and thousands of acres of olives. And they're doing in olive oil what we wanted to do in gin. They're winning awards all around the world, really innovative. And a good friend of mine is on the board and works for them. So we flew in, a whole lot of winemaking mates and I, and we went to this olive harvest. And it was the most extraordinary experience because as you walk through the olive grove while they're stripping the olives off the tree, you just get struck with this incredible green, fragrant, herbaceous aroma.
Well, and that's something I note just tasting it for the first time. My experience with olive gins are those Spanish ones, which really have that black olive, like salty, briny kind of kick to them, which I can appreciate, but it's not. And now I'm getting why it's olive leaf and olive branch. It's not that. It's the orchard. It's being there in the fields, and it's so unique. And there is a subtle floral quality to it.
Absolutely, yeah.
That isn't obvious. Not floral, but very plant matter without being vegetal. You know what I mean? It's
100%. I keep describing it, and I don't know why, but I keep describing this gin as just being a bit green. It's just got this lovely green character to it. And we started ripping olive leaves off the trees to take back to the distillery to distill. It wasn't until we went into the processing area for the olives. They'll take an olive and turn it into oil within 4 hours of harvest. They don't muck around. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They harvest, they don't stop, and it's an amazing experience. But tasting single varietal first press olive oils, we kind of went, wow, this isn't just about olive leaf. I think olive oil could be a really cool botanical. But we took back a whole lot of single varietal olive oils and did some trial run distillations.
With the finished oil?
With first press, unfiltered oil.
Sounds expensive.
It's not the cheapest botanical to buy. And some of them were, as you say, they were vegetal and they didn't really work. But then 3 of them really stood up. They were peppery, they were a bit tropical. We call it rocket over here. You guys call it arugula. It's got that peppery green, lovely freshness to it.
Yeah.
So we settled on 3 different olive oils that we tip into the still. We use an oil called Picual, another one called Blanca, and another one called Corotina, as well as olive leaf tea, so dried olive leaf.
Oh, we lost you. Jim, just so you know, this will be up on the IG, so you can watch the rest later. You're back. Hey.
Oh, sorry, man. Someone tried to ring me. I've tried to turn that off.
I figured out how to do it.
We use rosemary from my garden, bay leaf from my garden, some macadamia nut to really build texture and weight in this gin. Great. And then in the botanical basket, we use some fresh lemons and some fresh grapefruit, just to get that tiny freshness. And honestly, I defy anyone who manages to get to an olive grove for a half. We'll be walking around just wanting to smash a martini. Whether it's a dirty martini or a Gibson or just a clean, dry martini with a twist, it's just a really cool gin. And don't shy away from tonic. Gin and tonic with a little sprig of rosemary and a slice of lemon. And I'm not in lockdown, mate. I'm in the south of Spain again.
Hell yeah. Well, that's the whole point. I mean, this is the beauty of gin. It can transport you anywhere. God, this stuff is great. And just for anybody who's watching, it's for sale for the first time in the U.S. this week. So keep an eye out for that. What a fun product. So excited to be selling this in the States. And this is like the Shiraz. It's a small run. Presumably the nature of using agricultural products in your gin, it'll be subtly different next year, I imagine, or is the
we're going to make it as consistent as possible, even with Shiraz gin now, and we can talk about that in a minute if you like, but we've tried to iron out the kinks on that gin, and this is a gin we want to be able to have as one of our main gins, because I love it, and we do lots and lots of small batch gins here. Unfortunately, it's hard to get label approval for you guys in the US, so sometimes they don't sneak over there unless they're in someone's luggage. But this is one that we said, let's just take our time. We spent 5 years on this gin.
Wow.
And now, you know, label is pretty much approved, formula's approved for the US. We can get it in there. So if you like a martini, you know, I'm not a vodka martini guy, I'm a gin martini guy. This makes a beautiful and a great, just a nice, clean, dry martini. And if you like a martini, mate, this will hold up really well.
Love it. All right, man, this is such a dream. I'm so glad we got to taste that together. Tell us a little bit about the other two that we haven't talked about. The Navy, you said that's got a lime element, huh?
Yeah, so, I mean, you're lucky with Navy strength gin because you've got an awesome tax regime. You actually sell this for about the value of the tax in Australia per bottle. We're ridiculous on tax. This is, you know, $40 odd a bottle in tax alone in Australia.
Wow.
Fortunately, it's really expensive, and in Australia, a much smaller bottle. This is not just rare dry gin at high proof. You know, that doesn't work because, you know, 58% alcohol, rare dry gin doesn't really smell like anything. Alcohol's so it holds everything in place. We wanted to make a designated Navy strength gin, something above 57.5. You know, you guys know it, but the story is that Navy strength should be above about 57.5, which is the strength at which, if you mix this with gunpowder, you can still light the gunpowder. Allegedly, this is how the Royal Navy would proof their rations of rum and gin. They could store less of it, and if they spilt it on the gunpowder, they could still...
No doubt. I'll have a number of emails from the rum nerds explaining how that is totally erroneous, but who cares?
I don't... What could go wrong? Hey, I have no idea. All I know is we wanted to make something above 57. This is 58.8 B, not proof. And it's the same 10 base botanicals as rare dry with 3 additions. We dial up things like cardamom and coriander a bit. We drop out oranges pretty significantly, and we use the native Australian finger lime, which are now grown in California. And this is a weird elongated little lime, and when you cut them open, they're full of citrus caviar, tiny little balls of citrus. Chefs love them, bartenders love them. You know, if you're in California, find out what season they're in, and specialty grocers will have these. If you see them, pounce on them. They're the most incredible lime. And immediately that one botanical dragged this gin to Southeast Asia than that orangey Mediterranean lift. So we use some fresh ginger in this as well.
Cool.
And my favourite botanical is turmeric. It was a total mistake. We just had a box of ginger turn up one day, and I opened it and I said, well, that's not ginger, that's turmeric. And we didn't send it home, we distilled it. And to this day, it's my favourite botanical. It's dill, it's cucumber, carrot. And we love it. This is a gimlet or a Southside gin for me. Anything with lime, mint, ginger, really good in a mule if you like ginger ale, some mint, you know, some fresh ginger. Makes a brilliant gin and tonic. Again, maybe kaffir lime leaf, a little slice of ginger in there. It's a good martini, but not on a school night. Yeah. That's a sometimes this one.
That's a showstopper. Very, very cool stuff. Love that Navy. I mean, that's something that I really respect about you guys doing, not to take every product and really create its own breed. And to be honest, the product that really just, I think, took it to the next level for me, for you guys, is the Shiraz gin, because, you know, that's a product I think that's so innovative and so underappreciated. Can you tell us a little bit about how that one's made? It's spectacular, I think. It's not.
Yeah. I really appreciate that. This is a really interesting one for us, and it's grown. It's got a life of its own. We kept getting asked years ago if we were going to make a slow gin, and a slow gin is gin that had sloe berries, which are like an unripe plum. You soak sloe berries in that gin and then you add sugar because the acid in the sloe berries is so big, it could be quite insipid. I don't love slow gin, I'll be honest. I like it when it's balanced, and I like it when it's probably at the fresher end of the scale.
Mm.
So, we don't really grow sloe berries. There's some in Tasmania, and there's a couple of guys down there. Bill McHenry, beautiful Australian slow gin, but it's fresh and he balances the sugar. A lot of the other slow gins we were seeing imported into Australia, to be honest, were pretty tired. They were incredibly cloying sweet. We tested a couple of them for their sugar level. You won't believe it, the highest sugar level we found in a slow gin was 480 grams of just added white sugar. So we kind of said, well, we don't want to do that. I don't like adding sugar. We don't grow slows. We don't love the ones that are on the market. We were based at a winery at the time. Wilma was at the back of Rob Dolan's winery. It was vintage and kind of appropriated, which is a nice word of saying we stole 250 kilos of Shiraz grapes as they were coming into the winery one day. But we just kind of siphoned off one fruit bin. And we stripped all the stems off. We took rare dry gin at high proof and we tipped it over the top of the grapes. So there's no wine in this. There's no fermentation in this. There's no barrels in this. This is Yarra Valley Shiraz grapes soaked in gin for the bloody Shiraz gin. And then it pulls out all the flavour and the sweetness. So any sweetness in this gin is just natural grape sweetness. Any colour is natural grape colour. Yarra is not Barossa Shiraz. It's not that big muscular style. We are more Rhone Valley than Barossa Valley. We're medium. The hallmark of Shiraz out here is that it's white pepper, spice, red berry. In a cool year, extreme white. In a stinking hot year, it's more black pepper and plum. So it always ripens. It's a bit of a workhorse. So, 5 years ago, that was 250 kilos of grapes. This year, we crushed more Shiraz than any winery in the region. We did just over 100.
What?
We're still not sure if we're going to be able to make enough.
That is nuts.
It's our second biggest product behind Rare Dry, and it's a behemoth, and we love it. It's a really interesting drink. Just over ice, any wedge of citrus. If you want a tall, fresh drink, get some lemon tonic or the old school bitter lemon. And then, don't over tonic anything. For me, it's a gin and tonic, not a tonic gin. It'll bring the colour out into a beautiful pink drink. I'm not a bartender's bootlace, so watching bartenders play with this for 5 years.
Yeah.
Turning a south side into a blood side, a jasmine into a bloody jasmine, a bloody spritz, a bloody sour. Watching people mess around with it has been just amazing. How's it been received with you guys? I'm always scratching my head.
Yeah, no, people love it. I mean, it's one of those things you just can't screw it up. As you said, you can just drink it on the rocks, splash of sparkling water, you're fine. And then. I quite detest slow gin. I think it doesn't taste very good unless it's done extremely well or like super fresh or, so it's nice to have an alternative that doesn't sort of try to be a replacement per se, because it's really not. And I wouldn't say you put it in as a slow gin, but just something that's red and ginny and I just have so much fun with it. So. Yeah, we sell tons of it. I mean, people love it. It's obviously extremely well received.
The grape sugars in that, again, we don't add sugar, but the sugar level in it is about 95 grams. The driest slow gin we found 5 years ago in Australia was 280. So this is a third of the sugar level of the driest slow gin we could find. It will change a bit in bottle. I mean, it's not Campari. We're not using any synthetic colour or flavour or additive. So the colour over time will brown off. It'll go more brick red in colour. Those bright red berry characters will move more towards drier fruit fortified wine characters.
Yeah.
And what happens if that happens? I don't let it age long enough for me for that. But if that happens, use it more like you would use a slow gin. Make a Charlie Chaplin or something like that with it. When you open it, if you like it fresh, leave it in the fridge. But otherwise, watch it change and develop. You know, it's.
Yeah, I've never gone that far, unfortunately. I'll have to hold one back and see what happens. That's an interesting idea. I'm sure there's someone who's got every vintage sitting in their cellar just to see how it goes. It's such a fun product, and you know, we're so excited for all the stuff we're doing. And I appreciate your time, Cam, so much. It's such a pleasure to see you, man.
Mate, thank you. No, it's an absolute pleasure for me. It's not even 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm about to go and get coffee. You're about to go and make a martini.
Ready.
All the best. You know, we're all in this together. It's an interesting time to be alive. And the first chance I get, I'm on a plane straight back over. You know,
well, I'm heading toward you, so we're going to have to figure that out.
Well, yeah, mate, I've got a week to go before the Broncos play, and I'm ready to go. Stu and I would normally be in the US 2 or 3 times a year.
I know.
Separately.
I always look forward to our visits. It's always fun. Well, anyway, I'll wait for you guys to come. We'll have a couple, and then we'll meet back over there, maybe do another little mini K&L Negroni batch or something like that. That would be a dream come true.
And all your customers, because we get, you know, a lot of K&L people come to the distillery, you know, when we're open and say hello. And so to anyone who is tuned in, who's been here, we wish you all well and hope you and your families are all safe and well through this. And we hope to see you again here, or you'll see me soon in California. Hell
yeah, man. It's so good to see you. And let me just see if anybody who's watching have any questions for you before I let you go.
Yeah, mate.
Oh, Mr. Denver's here. Of course, Denver's here. Hi, Denver. Using it for he loves the gin tasting education. It's great. All right. It looks like everybody's pretty happy with our chat. So fun to see you. Be well, Cam, and send my best to Stu and the rest of the gang.
Will do.
And you know, drink well, be well. We'll see you very soon.
We'll see you on the other side. Thanks, man.
Right. Cheers, brother.
See you, team.
Be well.
Bye.